America is known for upholding the principles of liberty, justice, and opportunity. The United States proclaimed itself to be the land of the free and the home of the courageous during the American Revolution. These are the words that start revolutions and sound fantastic on paper. But in practice, freedom looks different for various people, especially for people of color. The history of racial equality in the United States is convoluted, despite the country's popular perception as a nation of opportunity and freedom. Black Americans have contributed much to the culture and society of the country, but they have also faced hardship and inequity for generations. The journey of Black Americans has been characterized by unwavering resilience in the face of unfathomable adversity, from the dreary period of enslavement, which lasted for nearly 2.5 centuries and saw millions of Africans forcibly brought to American shores. The fight for civil rights, symbolized by the monumental accomplishments of the civil rights movement and the deeds of Martin Luther King Jr., revealed Black people's unwavering energy and unwavering dedication to achieving equality. The sad reality is that Black Americans continue to be treated as second-class citizens, which exposes them to discrimination, violence, and deep-seated social and economic inequalities. In this video, we discuss what it's really like for a Black person to live in the land of the free. Additionally, if you want to help us out, please click the like button on the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all of your support. When he said that America is not a racist nation in reaction to President Joe Biden's congressional address in 2021, South Carolina Republican Senator Tim Scott stunned a lot of people. "I know what it feels like to be pulled over for no reason, to be followed around a store while I'm shopping," he said, acknowledging that he had personally felt the pain of discrimination. The following day, when asked if America was a racist country on ABC's Good Morning America, Vice President Kamala Harris appeared to concur with Scott. She quickly added, "But we also do have to speak the truth about the history of racism in our country and its continuation today." After this statement, some people feel personally offended when someone criticizes America for the racism that is pervasive in our social systems. This is due to the fact that they are aware, deep down, that they are privileged due to their race's undeserved advantages. This is something that Scott, Harris, and Biden are aware of and are attempting to balance as they worry about voters both nationally and in states like South Carolina. Black people in the U.S. live in a stark and frequently difficult reality that is continually overshadowed by American racial politics. The battle for racial equality has clearly made headway, but Black people's experiences and prospects, especially those of Black men, are still shaped by the deeply rooted prejudice. Despite advancements in civil rights and the repeal of legislation that were overtly racist, systemic racism still exists in American society and feeds a cycle of injustice and inequality. The depths of racism have been revealed by studies on what determines who thinks they are middle class. Black people are less likely than whites, with comparable levels of education, wealth, and occupational prestige to describe themselves as middle class. Why? It's because social class encompasses more than just one's appearance. It also refers to how one experiences social class in daily life and the respect shown to one's financial level. While white individuals frequently receive more deference, Black people are less likely to receive it. For white people, it is so typical that some find it impossible to imagine life without it. This is due to the fact that a majority of white individuals, especially those with lower levels of education and money, are aware of the premium associated with being white, which goes beyond economics to include cultural and social capital. According to President Lyndon Johnson, if you can persuade the lowest white man that he is superior to you, the best brown man, he won't realize that you are robbing him. He'll empty his wallets for you if you give him someone to look down on. The remarks of politicians like Harris and Scott are also perplexing on a more general level. Harris recalling her institutionalized busing memories and Scott detailing the roughly 20 times he has been stopped by the police. demonstrate how deeply ingrained their experiences with racism are in the communal memory, where being an elected official might have ruined the encounter. These narratives admit that being black makes life different, and regrettably, systematic racism still permeates our social institutions and permeates our regular social interactions, whether they take place in Congress or at a coffee shop near the Capitol. The cumulative effects of these kinds of experiences, racialized barriers and cuts, have an impact on health. According to the research of sociologists Pam Jackson and Jason Cummings, middle-class blacks had worse health profiles than working-class whites. They explain this discrepancy by pointing to the ongoing racialized trauma suffered in largely white environments like the workplace and neighborhoods. Systematically, we know that black people, compared to white people, are more likely to attend schools with lower funding per pupil, are less likely to find employment due to the black-sounding names we have, or even when attending an Ivy League university, are less likely to get a home loan even when they have the same credit score, have their homes appraised for equitable value, and are more likely to experience pregnancy complications and maternal mortality, and more likely to interact with law enforcement and the legal system. This is not simply conjecture. There have been studies that demonstrate that black persons are racially screened while applying for jobs. Associate professors of economics Marianne Bertrand of the Graduate School of Business at the University of Chicago and Sendil Mullainathan of MIT undertook a complex experiment to investigate if hiring managers could be more likely to reject job applicants with names that have a black ring to them. They created numerous fake resumes for job applicants with typical black and white names. The instructors subsequently sent out roughly 5,000 resumes for the 1,300 positions that were posted online and in newspapers throughout Chicago and Boston. The majority of job postings for which the researchers provided resumes were for managerial, clerical, administrative, and sales positions. Bertrand and Mullainathan took care not to submit identical applications to the same employer, and assigned the candidates' names at random to either black men, black women, white men, or white women. Then, Bertrand and Mullainathan kept track of which of their candidates received interview requests. Bertrand claimed that just due to the Chicago area's bigger metropolitan area, more resumes were forwarded to firms there, but added that the frequency of requests for interviews was essentially the same in the two cities. The outcomes were somewhat unsettling. Candidates with names that sounded more white than black had a 50% higher chance of being approached for interviews. The rates at which men and women were contacted were the same, with no appreciable variances. The findings show that callback rates to a phone line with a voicemail box attached and a message left by someone of the proper race and gender can vary widely by race. White job seekers had to put in roughly 10 resumes before they received a callback. To get one callback, people with African American names had to send in about 15 resumes. This could indicate either discrimination on the part of employers or the idea that racial diversity indicates inferior efficiency. Despite the fact that this survey was conducted in 2003, further studies have revealed that companies don't regard identical applications equally, and that candidates with black names are still less likely to be invited for interviews. Using randomly chosen and racially unique names, researchers from the Universities of California, Berkeley, and Chicago sent 83,000 fictional applications to 108 Fortune 500 companies in 2021 for entry-level job positions. In spite of having applications that were comparable to those of their white counterparts, they discovered that candidates with black names were called back 10% less frequently overall and significantly less when it came to particular organizations. Not only finding a job is challenging, for black folks, moving up the corporate ladder is practically impossible. Promotions and consideration for leadership positions are frequently more likely to be given to white personnel. Another obstacle is first meeting the requirements for a position. In terms of education, black people are not given the best opportunities. Many black students in the United States experience unequal access to high-quality education as a result of ongoing underfunding, and several real-life examples highlight the severity of this issue. Schools in mostly black neighborhoods frequently receive much less financing than schools in mostly white neighborhoods. Lack of necessary resources may emerge from this financing gap. For instance, schools in low-income areas could struggle to offer modern textbooks, educational technology, or extracurricular activities that are standard in school districts with greater financial resources. There are obvious differences in school infrastructure. Students attend schools with old equipment and crumbling structures in some regions, with a high concentration of black residents, and insufficient cooling or heating systems. For instance, pupils have gone to schools in Detroit, Michigan that have deteriorating walls, dripping roofs, and unventilated classrooms. Due to financial restrictions or poor performance, underfunded schools in black communities can face closure. When these institutions close, pupils are frequently required to travel great distances to attend school, which interferes with their daily schedules and study. The tests are a trap for black pupils, as well as the fact that they can't attend good schools. Standardized tests may be prejudiced against certain cultures, which disadvantages minority kids who do not have access to resources for test preparation. Standardized tests like the SAT and ACT have come under fire in the U.S. for allegedly maintaining racial inequities in college admissions due to their ability to undervalue the abilities of black students. The gaps still exist despite the criticisms, and nothing has been done to address them. Systemic racism makes it more difficult for people to achieve all components of the American dream than it did in the past. Even highly educated black folks with high incomes and clean criminal records experience this. In reality, studies show that white persons with criminal records are more likely than black people without criminal records to be called back for a job. According to research, these results are not explained by hard work, lack thereof, intelligence, or criminality. People's experiences are instead divided along racial lines by the racism that is profoundly ingrained in our social structures, including policies, norms, regulations, and laws. The same holds true for gender. Women can succeed, but they struggle more than males do. If not, America would have a female Speaker of the House and Vice President sitting behind the President far before 2021. People don't seem to understand that overcoming obstacles motivated by racism does not depend on being upwardly mobile. Our existing system is designed so that some people must overcome obstacles in order to succeed, whereas others are free to cross the finish line without facing the same racial barriers. Instead, the question is whether the routes to achievement are fair. America describes itself as an equitable democracy. People want America to live up to its genuine principles, but for this to happen properly, we need to acknowledge the structural obstacles that stand in our way. Furthermore, it's not like there hasn't been any racial advancement. It is because the United States hasn't advanced far enough. Top elected leaders' comments in this regard are regrettable but expected. Black people who are successful frequently experience anxiety because they are aware that achieving success, and more importantly, keeping it, is precarious. Some black people therefore try to make white people feel at ease. The majority of us have been socialized to do this. It is frequently a method of preserving our lives during police encounters or of maintaining our financial stability in boardrooms. Because we are among the few who achieve, some of us could feel guilty about it. We succeed in doing so. Embody the American dream and serve as a tangible role model for those unable to acknowledge the existence of systematic racism. We might even persuade ourselves that institutional racism is less pervasive than racism that occurs on an individual basis. Because of the overwhelmingly white spaces we are a part of, we both represent racial progress and are most likely to be subjected to racial discrimination. A persistent sort of double consciousness plagues us, and acknowledging this often makes us aware of the gradual demise brought on by the accumulation of racist obstacles and restrictions. Even when some of those successful people attempt to explain away institutional racism, the fact that the American dream is only attainable by a select few does not absolve the system or a flawed union. When black parents are concerned about their straight due to past experiences with prejudice, students have more traffic encounters with the police than they do potential accidents. Black individuals are more frequently subjected to racial profiling and conflict with law enforcement, which can occasionally result in catastrophic incidents of police violence. These interactions, accompanying fear and anxiety, can have a significant psychological impact. Racism occurs when a black couple is going to give birth and must deliberate which hospital to deliver in order to receive equitable care. We know that black women in the United States have worrisome inequalities in maternal mortality rates, making them more likely than white women to pass away after childbirth or as a result of postpartum complications. This unsettling pattern reveals the intricate interplay between racial disparities, healthcare inequalities, and institutionalized biases in the healthcare system. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely than white women to pass away from pregnancy-related problems, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. Maternal mortality is more common among black mothers for a variety of reasons. Systemic racism in the healthcare industry is one important factor. According to studies, black women frequently experience prejudice, discrimination, and stereotypes when seeking medical care. This might result in delayed or insufficient care. When a black parent frets about their child entering a top university outside of an urban location, that is another example of racism. This is frequently due to the bigotry that many fear they will run with while traveling to and from school, as well as once they are on campus. More urban campuses are not exempt from racism either. A recent article challenges the notion that higher education is the great equalizer by arguing that African American graduates from prestigious colleges perform no better than white applicants from less selective institutions in terms of finding employment. The research, which was published in the journal Social Forces, demonstrates that while having a degree from a prestigious university increases everyone's chances of landing a well-paying job, it is those positions that are easiest to land that have the highest ease of entry. Even when they both earn degrees from a prestigious university like Harvard University, is unequal for black and white students. According to the report, every 6th resumes submitted by a white candidate with a degree from a highly elite university obtains a response from an employer. 1 out of every 8 responses is for a black candidate. While equally competent black candidates must submit 15, white candidates with degrees from less elite universities might anticipate a response every 9 resumes. The researcher, Gaddis, gave the applicants names that were likely to hint at their races to prospective employers. Jalen, Lamar, and Daquan were the names of the black male applicants. Nia, Ebony, and Shanice were the names of 3 black female applicants. Caleb, Charlie, and Ronnie were the names of the white male applicants. Aubrey, Erica, and Leslie were the names of the white female applicants. The greatest response rate was 18% among white job candidates with advanced degrees from selective universities. White applicants with degrees from less prestigious universities responded at a rate of over 12%, closely followed by black candidates with degrees from selective universities at 13%. Less than 7% of black applicants with degrees from less prestigious institutions responded. In addition to having a response rate that was comparable to white graduates from less selective institutions, black graduates from elite colleges frequently received job offers that were less prestigious and paid $3,000 less on average than white candidates. Even a Harvard degree can't make Daquan as appealing to employers as Charlie. Therefore, it seems that education has its limits, Gaddis argued. Gaps this large at just the first step of the process show that a bachelor's degree, even one from an elite institution, cannot fully counteract the significance of race in the labor market, according to Gaddis, even though the experiment was unable to measure the odds of applicants landing a job after receiving an initial response. It doesn't matter how hospitable a company is to different candidates once they are met and interviewed if they can't enter the building. These data demonstrate that systemic racism is still present today. In the here and now, it is up close and personal. An institution like the Senate which has made the least racial progress, may not make racism any more obvious. In around 232 years, there have only been 11 black senators. It is obvious that the Senate is the ideal venue for us to find those with the fortitude to speak the frank, unvarnished truth about the past and present of our country. Then, and only then, will we be able to envision a world without institutional racism. It is essential that a process of truth-telling, rapprochement, and reparation get started. This begins with making amends for the mass enslavement of Africans, whose descendants are perpetually left behind in society. Equal chances can be created by investing in employment training and education programs, especially in historically underprivileged areas. Along with boosting the voices of black people and organizations leading the struggle against racism, allegiance and solidarity are essential. To effect systemic change, legislative action and legal reforms are required. A cultural transformation that values and celebrates diversity, equity and inclusion in the media and in daily life is also necessary. It takes commitment from all parties, individuals, communities, organizations, and governments to combat systematic racism. A more just and equitable society for all depends on acknowledging the pervasiveness of racism in American culture and eliminating discriminatory institutions and practices. We have now reached the conclusion of this video. We'd love to hear your comments, so please share them in the comment box. As usual, remember to use the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share buttons to help more people learn the truth about black people and hear their own stories as well. I appreciate you coming. Shayalakin.